6 days to Passover, 8th of Nisan. What does that mean? Well, to understand these things will help us understand the events in the Bible. If we can know what it means in the Bible by a day and an hour, then we'll better understand the events of the resurrection and the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. So where do we begin? Well, we begin at the start, Genesis chapter 1. And there was darkness over all the earth. And then God said, "Let there be light." Or more strictly speaking, become light. And there was light. And then God set up a sequence. There was evening and there was morning the first day, then the second day, then the third day, etc. So what started the day? Was it sunrise or was it sunset? We're going to find out shortly. Now Jesus says in John 11, 9-10, "Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him." Of course, Jesus is not talking about a 24-hour day, but he's talking about the 12 hours of daylight, just as it is in Genesis chapter 1. There was evening, there was morning, the first day. So how was a day understood? Well, they took the 12 hours of daylight and they divided up into 12 roughly equal parts. So no time in the Bible is ever exact. So when did the day start? Was it sunrise or sunset? Perhaps in Scripture we can find the answer. And the answer is we can. Now in Exodus, God did a couple of cool things. Firstly, he made the beginning of months the month of Aviv, which is now known as Nisan. And we see that in Exodus 12 verse 2 combined with Exodus 13 verse 4. That means that spring began the year. How cool is that? There's an amazing scripture in Leviticus chapter 23 verse 32 that describes the Sabbath rest on the Day of Atonement. And the amazing thing is that even after thousands of years, the Jewish people still follow this pattern. And it reads, "It is to be a Sabbath of complete rest to you. You shall humble your souls. On the 9th of the month at evening, from evening to evening, you shall keep your Sabbath." And there we have it. From evening to evening. From sunset to sunset. The Jewish people held their day. And there's our answer from Scripture. But there is more. On the 14th day of the first month, being Nisan, the Israelites were commanded to remove leaven from their houses. And then at evening time, or at twilight, they were to sacrifice a lamb for a household. And that night, which was the 15th of Nisan, they would eat the lamb that they had sacrificed with bitter herbs and unleavened bread. And on the night of the Exodus, they shod their feet and prepared themselves to travel. And they did this by faith in advance of what God would do. They smeared the lintels of their houses, and then when God passed through at midnight and struck the firstborn, the people of Israel were spared because God saw the blood on the lintel and they were passed over. There's a great cry over Egypt, and Pharaoh summoned Moses and commanded him to leave with haste. And so they did, because they were ready. They were prepared. In faith, they had gotten ready for this. And they carried their kneading bowls and their unleavened bread, and they took it with them. And so they left Egypt. And the scripture reads like this: "They journeyed from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month, the next day after the Passover. The sons of Israel started out boldly in the sight of all the Egyptians." And so there we have it. They prepared on the 14th, judgment came at midnight, and they departed Egypt on the night of the 15th. We have learnt that Nisan was the first month of the year, which was spring. We've learnt that sunset began the day, and that the day itself was broken up into 12 approximately equal hours. So check out my other videos that will go further as we progress from 6 days to Passover right through to the crucifixion and the resurrection of Christ. And by it we will gain greater understanding of what Jesus did for us, and we will be blessed.